Welcome to the Hardtech Podcast.
And everybody, welcome back to the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Harakas, with my usual suspect, Grant Chapman.
Thanks for joining, everyone. We got the usual host back finally, so I had to do a guest one without you yesterday.
I know, I can't believe it. If you guys have been following along, we're currently in Season 3. Season 2, we did 42 different episodes of founders and product leaders all across the country. I think we're already up to 57. Grant, I really can't believe it.
It keeps going.
It keeps going. People still are listening to it now, and it's becoming more and more fun. But we have a super exciting guest in the building with us today, Jeff Runnels from...
Like tunnels with an R. Runnels.
Okay. Runnels. Jeff Runnels from the founder of Lexia Solutions and the inventor of Uplift.
That's
Welcome
right.
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for driving in person. They're always way more fun in person.
Absolutely. A trip to Indy be fun. It's not too terribly hot. It is warm, but nice little getaway. So it's fun.
So Jeff, whenever we first jumped on, I'm super excited about this one.
Thank you.
For a few reasons. One, on our first intro calls, like one of the first intro calls I've taken where I was just like almost emotionally compelled to continue to root for the company.
Thank you.
But whenever we first kicked off our first conversation, you said it all started in elementary school. So that's kind of where I wanted to kick off the conversation today.
Certainly.
Yeah,
elementary school. So I'd never actually driving up here, I'd heard of it being said this as I was a takeout student or a pull-out student where I'd get taken out of regular classes to get special help. So there's a teacher, Miss Felker, and I got special help with reading and spelling, and so I was in the slower group. They would classify the groups red, yellow, blue, and
the teams, right?
Exactly. So I was in the blue group. They didn't want to say the slow group, but it was. We were more of Miss Felker's students were in the blue group, and so I was taken out, and so whenever it would rain, they would do like special games inside to get us engaged. And there's one time like the quiz bowl type thing. It's like Jeopardy or Family Feud. And so I would watch the History Channel on the weekends instead of like cartoons. Cartoons are kind of boring, and I was just like, this really happened. This is fascinating. And so I just remembered everything that I watched. And fast forward, was asked to be in quiz bowl and after school and got to that first practice. And this girl said, "What are you doing here? Like you're dumb. You're in the blue group." And I was like, "Whoa." I'd never considered that. I just thought that I was maybe learned a little slower than others, and so that kind of stuck with me for a while. And I was always wondering, if I had what it took, what it takes. Do I have value? There's something wrong with me. You know what I mean? And so that started a journey of having that feeling of being left out. Kind of being in the shadows, and that was my experience. Do you want me to jump from?
No. The reason I asked that question was because I think it kind of really played into what became Uplift and Lexia Solutions for you.
Yeah,
I know you had the relationship with a friend of yours in school, and then you're sitting down and kind of paint the picture of the setting where you're in the bar. With your now wife, Bliss.
Yeah, absolutely. We were at a restaurant, and she was telling me about a patient of hers who, not personal information, but that she had a patient that used a wheelchair, and she had never experienced, providing anesthesia in these several cases, and he was awake. And anyway, she was just telling me that everyone in the OR was just kind of inspired by all of everything he had going on, but his attitude was so contagious. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there at this high-top table thinking about, man, I bet I could learn a lot from someone who uses a wheelchair. I didn't know anyone who used a wheelchair. And a close friend of mine actually spoke with him on the way up here, Hal Little. He and I became good friends in high school, and he has autism. And so anyways, what I learned with my relationship with him is, first of all, I was outgoing, class favorite and loud and obnoxious. But in school, but I feel like Hal was the only person who really knew me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I could be myself with Hal, and whenever we would go to church and different things outside of school, thinking about anticipating what that situation may be like for him and how to be there for him and support
mm-hmm.
him. And so I thought about Hal after my wife told me about that patient. I was like, man, how did I develop that relationship with Hal? As I ate lunch with him every day at school. And so I said, what do you do with anyone. We break bread, you get a drink, and
Coffee, calories, caffeine.
exactly, yeah. And so I was looking around where we were eating, and I said, man, if you're in a wheelchair, there's literally nowhere that you could sit, like in my eye line of sight.
And to be equal and eye line of this conversation, right?
Exactly. It's just like whenever someone walks in, if you're able and like you stand up to greet them, there's something dignifying about looking someone eye to eye. You know what I mean? If we were to have this conversation, I'm sitting in a stool, it would be different. It would be like, why am I being looked down on, or I'm looking down on you?
It is. It's crazy how that subconscious human body language can be emulated by positioning, right? If you're looking down on someone because you're judging their ideas and things, like you naturally do look like down on them.
Well,
but if you're sitting in a different place than them, it can be conceived that way, even if you're the most friendly person in the world.
Right. Yeah. And that's a reality that that if you use a wheelchair, you're at a lower position most of the time. But one thing that someone told me, and I recognized, I'm a father of two. And we were at the beach, and so my wife sent me this Instagram post about whenever your toddler wants, they always reach like pick me up, right? And it said if they reach for you to pick them up, get down on their level, and like get down, and what you'll notice is that they don't really want to be picked up.
They just want to be on your level.
They want to look at you eye to eye, and feel like, hey, I'm here, and so. With Uplift, that's our vision. It initially was like, man, like I want to. If you're in a wheelchair, you can't really sit at a bar. Like you can't sit in a high top table. These are the ways that the design trends and architecture have shifted towards this, and most people don't think about what that means for accessibility. And so we're trying to do something that takes this new design and merging new technology and old technology, and just lift people up simply.
And I love the concept behind it, that this isn't trying to, because again, ADA compliance can be really hard on establishments.
Absolutely.
Right? To retrofit a beautiful historic building that you want to open a restaurant in or a bar in can be really hard to go meet the ADA requirements that are put on you. But your product doesn't need any of that externality. It truly is the device that brings the accessibility to wherever that person's going to be.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like the instant when I saw your website, I was like, that is so clever.
Yeah, we don't have to bring bar stools.
Right.
I don't have to bring a fold-up chair when I go to a concert at a venue.
Yep.
I have a seat there. And so, yeah, I'm sure we'll get to the ins and outs of what Uplift does and how we impact that.
But I love that you didn't set out to build infrastructure. You set out to build something that meets the person where they're at. And I thought that was just so cool.
Yeah,
right?
well, I've felt that. Like, I've felt that before. And unless you've been there, like, it's really hard to understand, like, what that does to you as a person. Mm-hmm. Just like whenever you're a kid in the playground and you aren't picked, you're picked last. Like, that does something to you. And so just we want to make sure that people know that they're loved and that that they have a seat at the table.
Yep, I'm coming from the kid that was in fitness protection program and still is. Picked last for dodgeball is a theme in my life I remember very well.
Jeff, you told me the story whenever we first jumped on, and we were chatting about the podcast. Imagine you're going to a concert and you're in line as you usually are. But whenever you go into the concert, imagine having to take off your shoes and then put on the shoes of the person behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I was getting to is there's typically in access, there's like a communal approach to access, and then there's a clinical approach to access. Clinical approach to access says anytime that individual encounters a barrier, we want to make sure that they have something that they can overcome it, right? Which is great. But what we're doing with Uplift is kind of a mixture of both. It's more of a communal approach to where communal approach says anytime there's a barrier, let's remove it so anybody that faces it doesn't have to encounter it. Mm-hmm. But what Uplift does is these are in spaces that are, or standing is a part of the experience and having that eye line of sight of standing. And so the comparison would be, people have said, what about those wheelchairs that lift up? You can just have, whenever you get there to a venue, you can just get one of those chairs. And I would ask them, what if whenever you went to, I'm from Nashville, went to Bridgestone Arena or Nissan Stadium, and they asked you to take off your shoes and put on the shoes of the person in front of you, and the person behind you puts on their shoes, your shoes, and then you go the concert for the rest. That's essentially what we're asking whenever we ask a person who uses a wheelchair to transfer in any public experience.
Well, and it's even more so because it's one of those things like half these places are outside where it's hot, but what people who don't use wheelchairs don't know is they're not rigid seats. You can't sit in a hard plastic seat. There's no like a easy spray down, wipe down seat that you can sit in when you're a wheelchair user. They have padding and they have cushions that it's hot. You're going to sweat through it. This is like going to the bowling alley and having to wear bowling shoes without socks on. I think that's like...
Or insoles.
Right.
I mean, gross.
Yeah, and it's everyone's been in it, and there's no way to clean it.
It's different, and so each of us encounter... Y'all live in Indianapolis. Y'all encounter different things in the winter than I do in Nashville. Mm-hmm. It's just different, and so we want to make sure that folks that have differences, that they don't have to feel different, Yeah,
well, I love this. You're blending this line of we could provide everyone that stand wheelchair, right? But that's asking them not only to wear the shoes of the guy in front or behind them, but also transfer. I have a couple of friends that grew up in wheelchairs, and some people have a different reason they're in a wheelchair, and transferring is not that hard.
Right.
They have enough upper body strength and coordination to move, and it's like a 2-minute exercise.
That's right.
I had a buddy who had MS, and to get him from his wheelchair to anything that wasn't his wheelchair took 2 people.
Right.
And it wasn't a pleasant experience, right?
It's different for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is that's what we've tried to build with Uplift, is with all of these universal design principles. There are things that we included that we didn't have to, but we knew that in order to remove barriers, we didn't want to create another barrier by not being able to accommodate everyone that uses a wheeled mobility device. It's
more of the concept of not including as many as you can. It's not excluding.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not as, can we hit 95% of the base? It's like, no, like, what is the thing we have to do so anyone that rolls up to this, that was a pun, but not intended, that really, comes up to this situation feels like it was made for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And exactly.
Right. Yeah. So we've talked about the product, and everyone listening doesn't know what it is, and everyone here at the table thinks it's awesome. So can we unpack what the product is for the listener? So what did you set out to build? Let's go talk about the product, and then I can't wait to figure out, like, how did you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to kind of go through the spill of on the ground floor? That kind of paints like a broad picture of, all right, so if you were to, what's the arena y'all have here?
Lucas Oil.
But the smaller one.
So Gamebridge Fieldhouse?
Gamebridge Fieldhouse, right? Let's just say Bridgestone because it's easier to use those words. Mm-hmm. Or any arena in any town. Mm-hmm. If you were to go to any arena and sit on the ground floor for a concert, and you're in a wheelchair, when the concert starts, what does everyone do?
They stand up.
They stand up. Right now, those ADA sections for a typical arena occupy about 45 traditional ground floor seats to provide access for 14 ADA seats and companion seats. And so if you're in a wheelchair, you sit in those ADA sections, you can have one person that sits with you. And so also, whenever the concert starts, you aren't seeing anything. And so ultimately, having the ability to go to a show with friends and family is really not on the table right now.
It is friend or one family.
Exactly. And so, and not only that, the venue is losing because these seats are underutilized because of a lack of view. And within the ADA actually considers that's an alternative because the ADA requires an unobstructed line of sight over standing spectators and equal dispersion. And so with Uplift, what we're able to do is with our ClearSight seating system is restore 45 traditional ground floor seats right off the bat and disperse Uplift, which is a relocatable vertical platform lift. Imagine a large travel suitcase that's flipped over sideways like a hot dog. It's on wheels, battery operated, and it unfolds to a compact platform. And what that allows us to do is disperse wheelchair accessible seats, ADA seats, into every section of the ground floor as needed. And so what that does is it gives the venue the flexibility to sell more seats, and then not only that, provide a level of access that meets the minimum requirement and offers that allows the venue to treat this whole demographic with a VIP experience that they really haven't had many opportunities and many tools to do that. And so with this ClearSight seating system, we can increase revenue, anywhere from the tune of, around $2 to $2.8 million over 5 years just by increasing wheelchair accessibility on the ground floor. And then into luxury suites. If you're in a wheelchair, the only place you can sit is at a high top table or at the top of the steps. Even ones that provide a cutout where you can wheel forward, that row of seats in front of them, if they stand up at all and their view is obstructed, then that is not meeting the minimum requirements. And so the ADA requires that unobstructed line of sight, access to an area serving food and drink. So if you're in a wheelchair and you want to sit at a high top table, that's not accessible right now. And then if you sell over 4 tickets, you need at least 1 wheelchair accessible seat per luxury suite. And so there really hasn't been a readily achievable solution to even make those accommodations possible. And so Uplift comes along, and we can wheel in, without any construction needed, wheel in an Uplift in less than a minute, allow a wheelchair user to be lifted up and sitting at that high top table. And they don't have to worry about if the person in front of them stands up because they're at that standing height.
And this is my favorite narrative of why your business model works. You're weaponizing capitalism to make altruism happen. DeAndre's heard me say this phrase all the time, and I'm sure you knew this was coming in this podcast. But this is what you're doing. You're making a business case for these arenas that you're going to make them more revenue, allow them to sell more tickets, more capitalism, all while providing a better experience for the people that need accessibility to make it equal and opportunistic for everybody. And this combination of capitalism and altruism is what makes you what I think very successful. From a product perspective when you set out to do this, because so many great altruistic products that offer accessibility or are good for the planet or whatever problem they're solving that's good for humanity doesn't have a great capitalistic case. They can make more money not doing that, but you're actually allowing them to make more money and be better.
Right. Well, there hasn't been any alternative. And so, and not only that, but, serving, studies have shown that the companies that go out of their way to show that they're including people that have been traditionally in the shadows, people are going back to them more so than they aren't. I mean, I could send y'all, been doing research for the past 10 years about this stuff, and recently the trends are just phenomenal.
I would agree with that. I think one of the things that Grant brought up earlier around the ADA, I kind of want to talk a bit about that because I got really excited from a go-to-market perspective on, you talked about that, previously, like you mentioned, it was hard for these organizations to meet the ADA standards. There wasn't anything that allowed them to do that wouldn't include like a remodel or what have you.
Sure.
But what you guys have introduced changes that narrative, and kind of talk about what that means.
Yeah. Well, right now everyone is in compliance and everyone is doing everything they can because Uplift isn't in the market. We had a call with one of the leading ADA experts that consults with a lot of these venues across the country. And the comment was giving something about there's no such thing as being able to do that with what Uplift does. And so what we're able to do is these regulations in areas of public accommodation, if it's not readily achievable to remove, meaning what they would have to do now is essentially raise the height of the entire stadium by 2 feet so that in their luxury suites, they can offset the height of that first row of seats to be high enough to where a low-cut table would have an unobstructed line of sight. And then not only that, they would have, on the ground floor, there's really no way to provide an equivalent facilitation of access without discriminating without either sacrificing your view or companion seats. So right now, if you want to go to a concert and you use a wheelchair and sit on the ground floor, you can, but then you can wheel over, I guess, near your friends, but you're still not going to be able to see.
Right.
And so even the raised platforms that take up a lot of space and you're still separated, there's really no other alternative to solve that. And so with what we do is we provide an equivalent, or Section 103 of the ADA, which is equivalent facilitation, which essentially it states there's nothing in the ADA that prevents a new solution from that provides better or equivalent access from removing
an old solution. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so once we're in the market and available, that's kind of how it activates. It's sort of like the swimming pool lifts. Is that the direction that you were thinking?
Yep.
Yeah, and so you've seen the swimming pool lifts, right? So they were invented in the 1980s, right? So the swimming pool and all of these areas that Uplift provides access to, they're called areas of public accommodation. And so the swimming pool, up until March 15th, 2010, was not the actual inside of the pool wasn't considered an area of public accommodation. Only the surrounding areas of the swimming pool, the restroom, all that stuff. And so with the ADA minimum standards update, they said now you have to provide access to the pool, all right? And so they gave them 2 years since this was a new standard. Construction was involved, permits, et cetera, et cetera. They gave them 2 years, to purchase and install these swimming pool lifts. March 15th, 2012, fast forward 2 years, 70% of the public swimming pools purchased and installed these lifts.
That's a pretty good number. I mean, that's a lot more than I would have expected for...
in 2 years, it's solid.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's solid. And so the question I typically transition to is how much revenue do swimming pools typically generate? Not much unless you're a casino or like a swimming pool park.
Or a gym.
Right, or a park. And so in the ADA, they have tiers of access. Accessing goods and services is like tier 1, all right? So Uplift provides access by means of an equivalent facilitation to tier 1 barriers of access that have been signed into law about 30 days before I was born. And so unlike the swimming pool lifts, that was a new regulation, these have been in the books. And not only that, Uplift doesn't require construction. And so the time that a venue or a place has the ability to provide this access, they don't have to wait for a renovation. They don't have to wait for a new construction. They can integrate it into their current system. And
this is what I think is cool that you and I were saying earlier, like this isn't infrastructure, it's a product.
Right.
And you can buy as many of them as you need for your community, for the average, wheelchair user base that comes to your venues.
It's on wheels.
You can put them in historic buildings without having to change that or get the permit around the ADA because it's historic, so you don't need it. It allows you to do all the altruism things while being very capitalistically efficient, which I think is just magic.
Right.
It's going to encourage use.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's really important at Lexia Solutions is building a safe product. And so we've been working with a private company here, Intertech. We're working towards UL and CSA, ULC safety certification, which is one of the highest standards of safety that you can reach. And having a product like this that is safety certified is something that not only for us, we don't want to put a product out there that's not safe. For our customers, the authorities having jurisdictions where they're going to be operating in, and the users. We want to give them the confidence that every time they lift that thing up, it's going to get them back down, And so we've been working over the past 3 years with them, refining that. How do we make this thing as safe as possible? And we're a few weeks away from, the final test, and it's fun.
And congratulations and condolences for the therapy you may need after doing UL. After everyone's first ride through UL cert, it is like you're like, I need to read every fine print and every I and every T because it's UL is it's a fun journey the first time.
It is. The people at Intertech have been amazing. They have been very gracious with me. Initially I could tell they were getting frustrated, and I was very green, and I didn't know a lot, and they've been incredible to work with.
Yeah, well, it's one of those cool things that when you get to the end of it, you realize why it's all there. When you're first starting, like, I have no idea why this one test matters. Like, come on, guys. Like, how is this going to work? And then you realize the cascade effect of why that test is there. Oh, that test there to make sure that this thing never happens that would cause these other two things to become dangerous.
Exactly.
It's not. It's never one step away. All the one-step failures, like, I see the reason we're testing this.
Yep.
It's the 2 and the 3, and until you've done enough, we're like, oh, I've seen how these things chain to make a thing I don't want to play with anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not rocket science, but we are lifting someone's child, brother, sister, mother. And so we want to, just like if I were to put my family member on there, I want to make sure they have that same confidence.
One of the things I was curious, also 2 questions. The first one is around, you got a pretty unique story on just like the product development journey that you went on. You worked with the group, and there's some Ori and gory details there, Grant. I think you're gonna get a kick out of that one.
Always happens.
I had a little PTSD coming in here, honestly, from a little bit of that journey.
I believe it. And then 2, kind of give us an update on like when is the projected, when's this thing coming on onto the market? So kind of that specific kind of getting this thing out and kind of the lessons learned there.
Well, I'll tell you this, coming into a place that has all these, engineers and stuff, I love it. Unfortunately, my journey included a season that created a lot of trauma. there's a place in Asheville. I'm going to leave names out because, it's water under the bridge. I learned a lot. I invested and lost a lot of money. But sometimes that's how you learn,
Yep.
And so anyways, went to them whenever I had this idea and was working at 72 hours after I had the idea. I met with patent attorneys, had no idea what I was doing. And then they said, you need to effing patent this. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yep.
After ADA attorneys.
And those are free, right? Patents are,
yeah,
they
are
cost $0.
That's right. They are free. Yeah. And so, I'm not sure if it was sales, but, they brought up an ADA defense attorney and, litigator. And it could have just been sales, honestly. Now I think business development guy
Yeah.
but came in and looked at it and said, hey, if you build this, you've got something. And this is needed. You need to effing patent this. And I was like, goodness gracious, let's do it. I've no idea. What do I do? Sign me up. And so that's kind of how the journey started. But, working with them, it's kind of one of those places that I'm a person of faith. But unless you ask me about it, I'm going to live out my faith in how I live, and how I treat other people. They had things written throughout the place that made you think that like they were people that were, people of conviction,
Yep, integrity,
and
corporate values, buzzwords printed on the wall.
Yes, and one that I can resonate with, and man, I wanted it to work with them. Took out another mortgage on my house, and it got to a point to where I was going there every morning, every afternoon, saying, "Hey, what are you doing on my project?" Because like it's been weeks and nothing's happened.
Yep, and just so I can understand the pictures, I'll frame the questions I may ask is like, was it a time and materials fixed bid or retainer? Like, were you expecting a fixed outcome, or were you paying for chunks of time?
I paid for a fixed outcome.
That's how this story happens. Yep,
exactly. And so, ultimately, I had a crossroads. I said, I received some counsel, and it's something that we could have sued them. And they said, either you sue them or try to work it out. And I said, well, let's try to work it out. Big Beatles fan. Anyways, for some reason that song just
love it.
Anyway, so I met with him. I said, like, hey, I want to figure out what you have going on so that you can allocate your time better. And like people can do things and knock things out versus kind of running around like crazy. And met with him would go in there every day for like 2 or 3 weeks. And like towards the middle of that or beginning of that third week, there were people banging on the door. And I was like, hey, we should get that. And I noticed like, he was like, call me whenever you get here and I'll unlock the door. And I was like, that's weird. The door's never locked. You know? And so there were people banging. No, he didn't answer. And then I reached out to some other clients that I'd met that he was working with. And they told me kind of their story. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I had no idea.
And so what was happening?
Well, there were some great companies, like ones that are helping people that, with stillborn babies and being able to serve those families to be able to be with their child for more time. I gave a written statement affidavit for that couple that was, they poured their life savings into build this product. And so signed that affidavit. And then this other company that actually, we're actually working with now, they said they won't release our stuff. And so whenever I had it drawn up that I was ceasing working with them, I had a buddy of mine came with a U-Haul, and I said,
grab our prototypes.
This is coming to an end. I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to move on. And, kind of shut that chapter. I didn't want to go back and try to fight with him. Like, he had enough going on.
Well, to tell the other side of the story. So I've been the developer
exactly,
on the other side of the story who fixed bid products in the past.
Yeah.
And the answer is none of us, even the people that are way better than I am, that have been doing this for twice as long as I have their careers, know how long and how much.
Oh,
no,
yes.
you cannot have this crystal ball. There is no answer. All of our clients, how long and how much? First question, maybe second.
We don't know what we don't know. That's what I'm learning. And so
100%. And
we're going to learn more
together.
And the more that we learn we don't know, we're going to learn things we need to learn.
Yeah, it's you start out with a bunch of unknown unknowns.
Right.
And then you get really happy when you have a lot of known unknowns.
Sure.
And you get to party when you know all the knowns.
That's right.
and like this is the transition of knowledge. And
Exactly.
This journey of product development as a company. 'Cause again, we started Glassboard when I was a child.
Yeah.
Like we literally dropped out of college to join a startup, and that founder ran out of money and we had a blast. And we went back to college kind of and started our first business, but we didn't know how to raise venture capital.
Sure.
So we started consulting to get money to put into our company.
Yeah.
So Drew and I were consulting to build these electric go-karts in my mom's basement, and it worked out.
Yeah.
People paid us money, and we built go-karts. Now, the go-karts never really took off. We sold enough to not starve to death, but ramen noodles was getting pretty tiring.
Sure.
So we were like, we should just do consulting. We're making more money doing that.
Yeah.
And that became Glassboard. But when Glassboard was officially formed, I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
Sure.
And we wanted to set out to fix bid projects because we were like all of our competitors tell their clients, I don't know how long or how much. It's just going to be, this many dollars an hour. And we thought there had to be a better way. And we learned we were wrong and they were right. And so we fixed bid things. And Drew and I ended up working for like way less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
For some of our clients who we felt compelled
Sure.
to deliver what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it worked out and we could work ourselves hard enough to make it work. And sometimes we got lucky and we guessed right.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of times where we'd get to the end of our rope, right?
Yeah.
Our equivalent hourly rate in this project is $3 an hour. We have to call it quits. Like, man, like we didn't make it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And it's tough.
Yeah, also just coming to a point of recognizing kind of like when it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're debugging stuff, and that's one thing that we've learned is like we have to like we're running into one thing, and that's part of it. If you haven't created something and product development is not a part of your journey, you're going to be very impatient and be very angry and like, what? You didn't tell me about that. No, well, I didn't know,
Yeah.
and so.
You said this was going to work. I said, I thought this was going to work. And we had to build it and then test it to find out that I was wrong.
Right. Yeah. And also like once, I'm a big fan of new mistakes. Old mistakes we don't learn from. And then
mistakes are
also,
hard.
and once you like, even we were dealing with a debugging thing and we were talking with my team and we were like, once it's not okay for it not to happen again, we need to know what caused it to happen.
Yep.
So that it won't happen.
That's right.
It's not okay for us to have the result we want if we don't know how we got there.
My favorite phrase, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. Right? Like this, the difference between screwing around in science is just writing it down.
Right.
And in all of engineering, you can solve 80% of the problems you're facing with iteration.
Yep.
By just writing down what you did,
Yeah.
and writing down the result, and eventually you'll have enough data, you'll pattern recognize these are the three things we always did that caused the bad result, and these are the two things we did that one time that made it work.
Yeah, that's why I'm not an engineer. I mean, I wrote something down. I've been using it. My Uplift was a laptop in high school. Those were my accommodations.
Me too.
Really?
I got a laptop in middle school because I have a balance issue, and
Really?
it causes my handwriting to be terrible, so I couldn't read my notes.
Yes. I mean, I still can't read my handwriting.
Me either.
Yeah, and so that was my Uplift. And so, anyways, I'm not sure where I was going about writing things down, but yes, whenever you said about writing things down, I've
Yes.
gotten into the big transcribing. My sister gave me a Plaud.
How is it?
Oh,
I've
Plauds
been
are
looking at
Oh,
fantastic.
it's great. So the notes that, anyways, we aren't paid.
Yeah, they're not paid. No, sponsor us later, guys.
Yeah.
And but it provides great summaries.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic.
That's awesome.
I
So,
mean-
so now you get to, even though writing wasn't your thing, you now get a way to capture the data that happened,
Yeah.
have it in a logged format that you can go look
Yep.
up later.
Yeah. It's honestly, I think, that the way we could do that probably derived from assistive technology. And it's actually one of the things like, signs in football.
Yep.
That's actually came from a deaf league that was playing football, and that's how they communicated. And then a non-deaf league saw that and they
And
said,
picked it up.
why don't we do that? And so, there's a lot of cool things that I think if you look back, the origin story of where things evolve from when it comes to product development, and even y'all are showing us some of the stuff cool stuff y'all are doing here in y'all's lobby. It's cool how it evolves to where that other one moved to, like, was it packing?
Packaging, yeah, it was supposed to be helmets to
Yeah.
prevent traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
And no one was brave enough to jump into that into that ocean first and change from the standard of care of polystyrene.
Yeah.
And we had to find a new use for this compostable.
Probably hard getting volunteers, you know.
Oh, it was really hard.
We need you to run your head against this
Yeah,
wall.
we're going to
Trust
drop
us.
you off this building.
Trust us.
But it was really cool when we jumped in the packaging space. We had
Yeah.
this huge market demand
Yeah.
for green, good for the environment,
Yeah.
compostable packaging that was still very good at impact.
Sure.
Because these bottles of wine and liquor were expensive.
Sure.
And the market
Still
of people
are.
that could afford these bottles of wine and liquor cared about the environment. It was this like Venn diagram where the market and capitalism met the need and altruism. And again, this is the same story that we were telling here. Is like I still think this is the magic of my favorite products have an either an accidental or a very on purpose altruistic outcome.
Yeah.
But completely hidden by the capitalistic, like it's a good business model.
Yeah.
I think the thing that gets me most excited about hardware coming from the world of software is that I think when it comes to software, like finding product market fit is like really a really narrow point.
Sure.
Like this software does this thing.
Sure.
I think the unique part whenever you're building hardware is that you almost kind of create a surface area of product market fit where you think a lot of like accessibility products. We were out in somewhere down south, you're giving a talk.
I was just about to bring this up.
Yeah, and there was an accessibility product for folks, I believe who were hard of hearing.
It was blind in airports.
Blind in airports.
Okay.
And so it was this thing so people could see what like the different stores that are
Sure.
in the
It was,
airports.
it
and
was
so
like
on.
mapping. So it would narrate where you are in the airport and where to walk to your gate. And the way they paid for it is they sold ads. So as you walk by the store, you would get the audio of that store is on your left.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
they saw a huge lift in their no
Yeah.
pun intended, huge lift in their sales because it wasn't just the people who were blind that wanted it.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
was everyone else.
Everyone
in the
else got
airport.
lost at airports.
Yeah. As it turns out, everyone also gets lost in airports as well.
Absolutely. You know, speaking of ads, we're speaking with an NFL team that has a really new stadium, and they were talking about sponsors that they haven't really had a way. Speaking of innovation, and to make sure we understand that our venues really haven't had any other better way. They still don't until we're in the market and pass safety certification. But having the opportunity to use the accessibility as a sponsorable asset.
Oh,
and
I love
so we have a little bit. The unit is compact, but there's a little space on there. And so we're trying to not only use Uplift as allowing our customers to have the halo effect of doing the right thing. That's also there's a legal requirement there, and then also bring in some of their loyal sponsors that have been supporting them and say, hey, here's something that if you want to have the halo effect of supporting, I always tell people, if someone that is anyone who uses a wheelchair or a veteran, would you give up your chair for them? Heck yeah. But they haven't had a way to give them a seat at the table. And the technology hasn't evolved, and that's what the time has come, and that's what we're doing.
No, and I love that. And again, what's amazing to me is all of the core physics of your product have existed
Oh yeah,
forever.
off the shelves.
And you saw this hole in the market.
Yeah.
That you're like, hey, why can't we do this thing that's stationary? Right? I'm thinking of the box, right? When they build the raised platform, that's all scaffolding, and they have to put the plywood on and assemble the whole thing. I'm sure it takes some hours to assemble every one between concerts.
Oh yeah.
And they're huge, and they take up space. And if you sit behind that, you can't see over that.
They're
So
in
you're
the back. They're typically in the back, which is not like.
But it's not equal.
fair.
That's what I'm saying. It either
Sit in the back. I think that's against the law. Like,
Yeah.
And the ADA is a civil rights law, which
Right.
most people don't realize.
But it either kills their economics because no one behind that can see, so they have to block out all the seats, or they have to move it where there's no one behind them. And there's this huge barrier to doing that.
Yeah.
And you're like, we have to find a better way. And you're using standard, I'll call it mechanical lifting technology.
Yep.
Right. This isn't rocket science. There's no nuclear reactor in this thing. You've got, I'm assuming batteries.
Yes.
Right. So you have some.
Yeah. There's plug in. If a battery runs low, you can plug it in
And charge itself and run
charge
motors.
itself. Also manual lowering.
If the batteries die and you're not near a plug, I'm sure you can get it down.
If the batteries die, there's a fire going on. I mean, like there are so many different safety things that we have in that thing. You can get out of that thing. Of course, someone, it's not going to be something that typical public use is in a place where there's no one else in the surrounding area.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But my favorite part about this narrative is like you didn't have to create new laws of physics to make that happen. You had to have the foresight to see the hole in the market and to be diligent about trying to fill it.
Yeah.
And you found the right technology and the right structure to do this. And I'm sure you iterated. I'm sure it's a very different design than you started with in day one.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I've seen the video. I've seen the utility of it. And it's so cool that this thing that should have existed 15 or 20 years ago
Sure.
is existing now only because you saw that it needed to be here.
It is, I pinched myself. I mean, hearing that sometimes, growing up, always knew I was put here for something, and I never knew, if you look back, there's actually Jim, what is the flywheel, Good to Great? Jim Collins.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a new book, and I was listening to that on Oprah's podcast on a trip with my wife. And it was talking about being programmed for what you were programmed for. And, I look back on my life and the journey I went through with being in Miss Felker's class and the journey of, not being diagnosed with dyslexia until the 10th grade, telling my mom that I'm dumb, like I'm not going to be able to go to college. I'm really grateful for that. And I think that everyone, if we look back, we were all, we're all on a journey, and even the cliff is what Jim Collins was talking about is, can be a new change, and it may feel challenging, which the bumps in the road and the roadblocks we've encountered have been immense, but honestly, I wouldn't trade any of them because it's helped refine me, the vision, the team, so.
I mean, I usually have a nice wrap-up statement, but Jeff, that was a lot of it. I guess the last question I'll have for you is, again, kind of putting a bow on what you just said. I completely agree with you. I think that starting from the very beginning, it really did for you start in elementary school. Like the story of Uplift and how that has kind of compelled you. I think, and even the part of the story you didn't get a chance to share around your kind of journey into legislation, into the like politics and how that kind of helped you get the right lens and look at policy, and then led to ultimately Uplift now and what you guys are doing, which is super unique. I guess for folks that are little Jeffs, or folks that maybe came from a similar background, what's kind of your parting advice for them leaving the show?
Well, if I could tell myself, I would just tell him that I love him. You know what I mean? And that it's okay, that it's not going to necessarily be easy, but because of the journey that you're going through, you're building this stamina, this grit that only can be formed through adversity.
Experience, yeah.
And, it is, we are different. And any kid that has dyslexia, they may feel like they're different. They are. And we're here to change the world. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why we named Lexia Solutions, dyslexia.
It took me longer than it should have to put that together.
Yeah.
And when it hit me like a freight train. I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we all have something to give. We all have a gift to bring and bless the world with. And I think that some of the best solutions come from ones that we look at things just a little differently.
If you looked at things the same way as everyone else, you would build what's already there.
Yeah.
That's my parting gift for anyone in product, right?
Sure.
If you think like everyone else, you will build the thing that everyone else has already built.
That's right.
And it takes all kinds to do product, whether it takes the engineer who's good at math and diligent and all that things, or the visionary who sees the hole in the market and will stop at nothing to fill that hole, and that they're driven to do so, or the person who does nothing more than to love to share the message and the gospel of what it is, why people need to know that it exists, and it takes a whole group of a village to make a product successful. And what you just touched on is your side of your journey was so specific to make you uniquely good at what your role was in this business and in this world and in this product. Yeah. And you know that it takes other kinds to the other puzzle pieces that you didn't fill.
Absolutely. And I can't fail to mention, like, throughout the journey, like, there are people that are in it for seasons. They come in and say, hey, I'm here, I want to help, like, and we're learning. And, like, I could sit here and talk for hours about the people that came in and said, I believe in you, Jeff. I want to give my time. And even though ultimately, the journey, I guess, no one's going to have the fight to continue like me, But I'm so grateful for every single person that has helped lift me up along the way as we try to fulfill the law for the least of these.
Everybody, this is the Hardtech Podcast. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, cheers.